in next month, and we are also writing reviews, interviews about what happened in the past month. Unluckily, I've had more of that kind of magazines with me, but I left my bag in the bus, so I've got just one. I will show it to you, just take a look at it. To be honest, I'm not sure if the expression workshop is the best name for this, what's going to happen. I think it's going to be more like a short lecture mixed with discussion with you. I'm going to tell you a bit about how the situation between media and culture did change in Poland. Because I think that the road which we were going for the past 20, 30, 40 years is a kind of example for different countries. What can you do, and example what you should not do in the communication between culture and media. At the very beginning I want to give you a bit of history. As all of you know, before 1989, Poland was a communistic country. That means that we didn't have much of freedom in media, we didn't have much of freedom in culture. But those years were, many interesting things were happening in culture. And the only problem is that most of the events which are happening in so-called official culture, that means culture which was financed by the government, by the city government and so on, that was a culture which was focusing, for example, on classical theatre, on folk dances, on folk singing. This was culture which was more used as a propaganda tool than as a tool of discussion, of developing something, of finding truth. But on the other hand, in Poland we did have this kind of a second independent culture, student culture, and this kind of culture was much more live, much more aggressive, provocative. But it was in the niche, so that means it was happening mainly in the universities. As I told you, it was mainly student culture, alternative theatre culture and so on. And in case of media, of course, all of the media were owned by the state. And the state didn't want to write about kind of controversial culture because they were thinking it's bad, it's engaged in politics. But on the other hand, at that times, in each newspaper there was at least one or two journalists who were writing only about culture. Each newspaper did have its own page on which you could read about theatre and folk festivals and so on and so on. And actually the quality of this writing was quite good. So maybe the topic was not very fascinating because actually in Poland we hated those folk dances. This is not the folk which we are used to right now, which is live, which is kind of, developing itself. It was this kind of traditional folk dancing. It was quite boring actually. But as I told you, actually the quality of journalism at that time was very good. And the same goes for the radio, the same goes for the TV. I can give you an example. In times of communism, always in Monday we had a theatre performance which was screened by TV. And after the theatre performance, there was a discussion which took about 1 hour, and the best Polish theatre critics were discussing the topic of the performance. Was the performance good, was it bad, and so on and so on. And actually, I think that it was a very important moment because you cannot leave culture without comment. That means, especially contemporary, for example, contemporary art. When you go to the museum and you see, for example, a painting of Mark Rothko or the black square and white wall of Malevich, and you are not ready, you are not prepared, you are not educated, you just look at it and you are thinking, oh no, that's bullshit, that's not an art. But when you have an opportunity to read about it, when you have an opportunity to hear discussion about it, then you get the knowledge. And the knowledge is the clue to understanding art, to understanding culture. So that's why, of course, I don't have a very good opinion about times of communism in Poland. But in case of writing about culture, I would say it was a kind of a golden age. That means that the situation was very good. And a bit later, in 1989, when we had this sort of a transformation, so the communism collapsed, free market, democracy came to Poland, that wasn't a very good time for culture. Our country was almost bankrupting, so factories were falling down, people were losing jobs, and so on and so on. And the culture was always funded by the state, so that means that the city or the state was paying for the artists. When you don't have money in budget, first thing which you are cutting down the art. So the very beginning of the 90s, it was a sad time for culture, and it was a time of a huge change. We were open for the West. We didn't want to see those folk dances anymore. We wanted to see Western art. We had a free TV which was playing American films, and at that time everyone loved America. And people just didn't want to go to the theater. They didn't have money. They were thinking that they don't have time for that. And for 3 to 5 years, the culture was going down, down, and down. But something happened. And I can explain why it happened. When you are hungry, you don't think about art. There's this famous triangle of Maslow. That means that when you are at the very beginning, you need to support your most important needs. That means you need food, then you need place to stay, then you need girlfriend or woman or kids, and then later you need culture. And that was the problem in Poland, because in Poland we were, well, maybe not hungry, but we were kind of trying to find ourselves in the new situation. So when the culture was going down, actually the media were going up. And because through the times of the communism, we did not have free media. People didn't like to read newspapers because they knew that the newspapers are lying, that the newspapers are mainly a tool of propaganda. But when we were a free country, the new media, private media appeared, and people were fascinated about it. So actually, almost everyone was buying a newspaper. A new newspaper like Gazeta Wyborcza appeared, which was a free, very intelligent newspaper. The newspaper was focusing not only on politics, not only on society, but they were also writing about culture, if there was something to write about it. That time was a very good time for media. So, bad time for culture, good time for media. As I told you, in the 90s, in the 1995 to 2000, situation of culture started to look a bit better. In Poland, we discovered one again, the idea of international festival. So each city wanted to have its own international festival. And it was quite wise idea, because it's hard to find money for just one performance, which can be very expensive. If you want to take a performance from the United States, you need to pay for the transport, and so on and so on. So it was much easier to go for bigger events, and that's why we started. Each city wanted to have its own festival: theater festival, music festival, dance theater, and so on and so on. We even started to call it a festivalization of culture. And the response of the media was quite good, because, you know, when, for example, to Lublin, there were coming the best theater groups from Europe, from the United States, media could not ignore that. People wanted to see that, they were curious to get the tickets, so that was kind of an interesting moment. And that was the best moment of cooperation between media and culture, because media were advertising the events. So before, let's say, festival, they were giving the information, they were publishing the program, They were publishing interviews with people who are responsible for this performance or this theater or festival or this music and so on. They were writing reviews. For example, in the biggest theater festival in Lublin, it was like 5 days festival, and each day there was at least 1, 2 or even 3 reviews. So, as I told you, that was the moment when the culture and media were very close. But once again, nothing which is good goes forever. And a bit later, media, especially newspapers, started to be focusing more on the kind of scandalous situation. So they were looking at the politics, they were looking at corruption, they were writing about mafia, they were writing about tragedies, wars, and so on. And the culture started to be pushed back. And when I started to think, to work as a journalist, I was writing for Gazeta Wyborcza in Lublin. I remember a very long discussion with the head editor of Gazeta Wyborcza about culture, about my writing about culture. And she told me, Miłosz, please remember, culture does not sell. That means that through culture you cannot sell newspaper. If you've got an information that someone killed someone on the first page, everyone is thinking, oh, I need to read that, I'm interested in that. If you have an article about it, that there's a hole in the road, everyone is reading them because he's thinking, okay, this hole in the road was here for past 10 years, maybe now they will fix it. But when you look at the last page of newspaper, where there usually was information about culture, actually it was only interesting for people who are very close to culture, for people who are going to the performances, for people who are going to the galleries, and not for everyone. And that's the first reason why the culture started to be pushed back from the newspapers, but the same happened with radio and with the TV. But on the other hand, in 2000, the internet started to develop. So everyone wanted to have his own web page. A lot of portals started to appear. Portal like a big site when you've got information and so on and so on. In the United States, it was like a moment they were talking about internet boom. That means that everyone was starting his own internet startup. And exactly the same situation happened in Poland, with the same effect as in the United States. That means in 2002, we had like 5 local big web pages about culture. One was about clubbing, one was about whole culture, that means theater, museums, and so on and so on. One was about reggae music, and 2 others were, I think, that were a method of stealing money, because there was not much information on them. None of this portal does exist till now. Why? Because those people who started to build these portals, they were thinking that they can that they can earn money through advertisement, and that the cultural operators will be paying them not much money, but just a bit, for putting information that, for example, in Center of Culture there's going to be an exhibition. Of course, that was not a very good idea. The cultural operators were used to that the information is free, so they didn't want to pay. Not many people were entering the web pages because there was much of them, they were not very good promoted and so on. And after 2 years, all of that died. So none of this portal is existing anymore. At the same time, in Lublin, we started to see that we've got a huge problem with the quality of journalism about culture. The people who were writing in the 80s, in the 70s, they started to finish their work. They were too old to work, so they went to the pension, I think it's called in English. New people were not very well educated, because we don't have such education in journalistic studies. So in journalistic studies, you learn how to write about politics, you learn how to write about society, but you never learn how to write about culture, and culture actually is a very difficult subject to write. And the other problem was that Lublin, it's not a very big city. At that time we had like 4 major newspapers, 3 radio stations, and 1 local TV. In each newspaper there was 1 journalist working who was writing about culture, but he also was writing about a hole in the road or about murder or something like that. And the biggest problem is that in such a small city, everyone knew everyone. That means that journalists were meeting with the cultural operators, they were meeting with the artists, they were partying with them, they were talking with them, they were drinking with them. So everyone knew each one, and some of them were friends, some of them were colleagues. And on one hand, it's good to talk with an artist, because then you get a bit of his knowledge, a bit of his mind. So you can ask him why he did something like that. You can discuss his art with him, and that's good. But on the other hand, when you are starting to befriend artists, so you started to make friends with them, then you've got a big problem with being objective. Because if you were drinking last night with your friend who's a theater director, next day it will be very hard for you to write that his performance was very, very bad. And in Lublin we had exactly the same situation. All the people who were writing about culture were writing about their friends, and there were absolutely no criticism in that. So each performance was very good, each exhibition was very good, and so on and so on. And actually when I was reading that text I was thinking, oh come on, I must have been on a different performance. I don't believe that. That's a bullshit, that's not true. And actually that was one of the main reasons when I started to think about me that maybe I could be a journalist. In 2002 I was on the first year of Polish philology, so the knowledge about Polish literature, language and so on. I was very close to culture because I was working as a technician. That means that I was working with the equipment. I was working in Center for Culture in Lublin, and at that time people who were artists, who were organizers, they understood that you cannot count on media, that the media are just bad and we need to think something new. And for almost 2 years, a lot of people were telling us, were talking to each other that we need our own medium. That means that we people of culture need our own medium. And I don't know how did it happen, but it did happen. In 2004, in Lublin we decided that we will try to have our own magazine about culture. But there was a huge problem, financing. We didn't have much money, and printing a newspaper, printing a magazine, it's very, very expensive. The second problem, we didn't exactly know where should we put it, so where this magazine should be located. If it is in Center for Culture, where I was working, then it's a bit of a problem, because then you are writing about yourself, so you are writing about your organization. And when you are writing about your organization, you might feel pressed that you should write in positive way, that you should not criticize it, that you should write that everything is good, that the performance is best, and so on. And about other institutions, you can pinch them, say that something was not very good. And actually, for almost 1 year, this was the biggest problem to solve, because we absolutely had no idea how to fix that problem. We could not go to the library, because the library was not interested in that, the city library. We could not do that through the city, because if the city would be owner of the magazine, you would have to write positive about everything, especially the city. So at last we decided, okay, let's skip the objectivity problem, let's go for our own magazine in Center for Culture. Let's discuss with the city about the financing, let's think how should this magazine look. Let's do our best to be objective, but if not happen, it's okay, then we will stop the project, then we will cancel the project. And to be honest, at that time in Lublin we had a kind of a very strict right-wing government, very conservative. And our culture was a bit like left-wing, so once again it was provocative, it was aggressive. There was, for example, in modern dance performances, there was there were a lot of pieces where dancers were nude, and the right-wing government didn't like that, the local government. So they were not very happy that the culture looks like that. They would prefer the culture to be more traditional, more giving positive view of Poland, of Polish patriotism, and so on and so on. And that's why the city was not very happy about our idea that we want to promote ourselves, that we want to inform what's going to happen. Once again, discussions were very hard, very difficult. Actually, someone asked me if I wouldn't like to lead the magazine. And I was in the first year of studies at that time. I was absolutely not able to do that. I didn't have enough experience, I didn't have enough knowledge, I didn't have a team of professional journalists, because as I told you, in Poland at that time there were not many people who knew how to write about culture. But I was young and a bit crazy, so of course I said, yeah, fine, I'm gonna do it. For 3 months I was mainly looking for people with whom I would work. I was contacting people from Warsaw, from Krakow, from different cities, but we didn't have enough money to pay them enough to come to Lublin. I was trying to find journalists in Lublin, it didn't happen. We didn't have that kind of journalist. So finally, actually we started to do it as a group of friends from the studies. So I just asked a couple of girls from my studies, will you help me? Do you want to be a journalist? Let's make a newspaper, let's make a magazine. I was quite optimistic, but I was always foolish. 2 years later, someone from the local government told me, Miłosz, we chose you because we were thinking that you are not going to handle this magazine, that you are not going to be able to do that. And then the idea would collapse, artists would have to shut their mouth, so they would not be able to complain because they had a chance for that. And that's the idea, which was very good for artists, but not very good for the city government. So that was the first try how to kill the magazine, the idea of culture magazine. And because at that time politics were kind of difficult, as I told you, right-wing government, they wanted to put a bit of a censorship on us and so on. We were editing and printing Lubelski informator Kultury Razom in Center for Culture in Lublin. So that's why at the very beginning we decided that this magazine is gonna give you only the information. So it's gonna be only a promotion tool. So each month we will write what's gonna happen in theaters, what's gonna happen in galleries and so on. We are not gonna put reviews, we are not gonna print interviews because we don't have money and we don't know how to solve the problem of being objective. But a bit later, in 2007, Lublin decided to take a part in a contest for European Capital of Culture. And that was a moment of boom in Lublin culture. So many new events happened, many new artists came to Lublin, new venues were open, and the tension was so high that was the best moment that we decided, okay, this is the moment when we can write something more, when we can not only inform, but also criticize, when we can give interviews with interesting people, when we can try to write that maybe not everything in our city is very good, maybe some sort of problems, political problems connected with culture. We started doing that and then the problems started. Because when the city government is paying for the magazine, then he's expecting you to write in positive way. And I really hate that way of thinking, but they are thinking that the money they are giving us, it's their own money. That's not true, that's our money. That is the money which is coming from the taxes. And some people who are paying taxes want to read that kind of materials, that kind of articles. But once again, the tension for culture and the integration between artists was so high, so strong, that actually each try to block the magazine, to stop printing the magazine, or to censor it, it didn't happen. In the most difficult situation, it was just a matter of couple of calls to other artists, to people who are engaged in culture. We were writing text, we were writing letters that you should not intervene into the magazine and so on. And the government started to push back. They understood that, okay, let's leave the Zoom free. It's kind of marginal magazine because there was not many copies. It's like about 6,000 copies right now. So they started to not to treat it as a danger. And as a tool of promotion, Zoom appeared to be a quite good magazine. Because each month, at the beginning of the month, you could take a look at the whole month. So you could preview what's going to happen in next week, but what's going to happen in the end of the month. And actually, people who were taking Zoom, they were keeping the Zoom for a whole month. So they were using this as a kind of a navigation map through culture. On the other hand, in Lublin, of course, Zoom was not enough. So, and there was a bit more money for culture, so we started to use different tools of communication of culture. We were trying to work with typical marketing tools like billboards, spots, advertisements and so on. It wasn't very successful. We were trying to put a bit more stress on local newspapers, local radios, local TVs, that they should take a bit more attention. They should take a look at, look more careful at culture. It didn't happen. We didn't succeed in that. But at that time, a new tool appeared: social networking. The networks like Facebook. Before there was in Poland, it was called Nasza Klasa. It was similar idea to Facebook. And a new trend appeared. People started to completely ignore media. Completely. They are even not sending the information to the newspapers, mainly because they know that probably the newspaper is not gonna write about it. But everyone wants to have its own activities on Facebook, and Facebook is now one of the strongest tools of promotion of culture in Lublin. And I'm actually not sure if it's very good, because still not everyone does have Facebook. Not everyone is active on the internet. Some people are old and they are not used to using internet. Some people don't know how to browse from internet. And that kind of focus on social media, on internet, is problematic because it's kind of excluding a really big group of people. And this is a kind of ending of my this case study, let's say, this history. It shows you how did it change in Poland. I don't know what's about the future. I don't know if we will go only for the internet, or maybe the newspapers and the traditional media will take more care about culture. But I definitely know that we need to discover something else, because old tools, they don't work anymore. Even in the case of Zoom, I can honestly tell you that the idea is starting to burning out. We are doing this for 12 years. People are used to Zoom, but there's not so much passion about it. There's not so much passion in me, in my journalists, but also there's not so much passion in our readers. 3 or 5 years ago, when Zoom appeared, everyone was going to the theater, to the gallery to take one copy. It was discussed, people were interested in that. Now they are just taking that as something normal. They are used to that. And to start this kind of conversational part of this lecture, this meeting, I would like to ask you about you. What are you doing? Are you a journalist? Are you a cultural activist? Are you artists? Are you students? Journalist, okay. Wtarza, okay. History student. History student. Next lady. Okay. Okay, student, okay. These two I know pretty well in the back. So,
How you said we are not students?
well, you look like a student, both of you. So this is also Michael is also a translator, Brendan is, I don't know, journalist, artist, activist, I think that everything in one. Krzysztof, I know, he's a cultural operator. And you, both of you, artist?
Activist, cultural activist.
Okay, artist. So the first question is for artists and people who are working in theatre. When you are making an event, when you are making your own art, do you promote it in any way? And how? Should I give it to...
Yes, yes, if possible, because we cannot hear and then we cannot interpret it back.
Я в театрі працюю вже 4 роки. У своїй культурі до цього працювала в журналістиці. І театр, який я прийшла, працюю взагалі в театрі в Рівному. Це державний театр, комунальний. Ви у нас були в бібліотеці. Теж в Рівному, я думаю, ви пам'ятаєте вашу візит в Рівному. І трошки проблема, тому що в той час, коли я прийшла в театр, там практикувався такий спосіб, що людина, яка виконувала обов'язки мої до мене, вона писала такий прес-реліз, і видання це публікували. І максимум це могло бути інтерв'ю до ювілею якогось там актора чи якогось там лиця. І зараз, прийшовши в театр, я намагаюся використати якби ширші якісь можливості, створити навколо якоїсь події в театрі ширше просто коло, щоб прем'єра вистави стала якимось мистецькою подією в місті. Промо – це, звичайно, традиційні медіа, телебачення, газета, інтернет. Оскільки зараз соціальні медіа теж в Україні відіграють велику роль, Фейсбук у нас досить популярна сторінка, наш сайт. Намагаюся робити нашу сторінку в інтернеті, робити такою, щоб вона висвітлювала не лише події в театрі, які відбуваються, офіційно події в театрі, але якісь життя театру. І багато хто, відвідуючи сторінку, каже, що сайт живий, і люди заходять подивитися просто, чим живуть актори. Наприклад, ми могли поїхати десь на якийсь фестиваль, і це не лише звіт про фестиваль, але, наприклад, які міста ми відвідали, що ми бачили, з ким ми комунікували. Якісь проекти, які роблять актори поза театром, теж намагаюся висвітлювати в такий спосіб. І, звичайно, різноманітні організації, які на Зєлінському працюють в інших сферах культурних, до подій в театрі.
Anyone else would like to speak?
Я зараз закінчую навчання в Академії мистецтв і моєю спеціалізацією є якраз мистецтвознавство. Хочу сказати, що дійсно є така проблема, що дуже багато митців це є наші друзі. Особливо, якщо говорити про львівське середовище, це майже кожного, про кого ти хочеш, то якщо або не вчишся з ним, або там якісь знайомі друзі, тому об'єктивно...
That's too fast for me. That's too fast.
Добре.
We have the phones, translation.
In English, but...
Oh, maybe in English, please, yeah. Sorry, but I understand a bit Ukrainian, but not so fast spoken.
Okay. We have student. I will start from the beginning. So I'm finishing my academy. I'm studying in the Academy of Arts. And I'm specialist in the artistic studies.
Часто доводиться писати про людей, які творять сучасне львівське мистецтво.
Very often I have to write about people who actually create art in Lviv.
І більшість з них це є мої знайомі друзі або люди знайомих друзів.
And most of them are either my acquaintances or friends of my acquaintances.
Тому погоджуюсь з думкою спікера,
That is why I agree with the ideas expressed by the speaker,
що писати критично
that
досить
to
важко.
have well, critical articles about my friends, of course, is a challenging task. Це знак. Maybe you put on and then it will take time.
Sorry,
It takes twice.
thank you. Okay, continue.
Зараз організовується багато проєктів, які беруть участь як і менеджери мистецтва, як мистецтвознавці, які безпосередньо пов'язані з роботою в такому культурологічному ключі. Але
I'm sorry, problems with. Okay, once again, sorry for that.
найбільшою проблемою є те, що для проєктів, які ми самі хочемо реалізовувати, як митці, менеджери мистецтва, як мистецтвознавці, нам потрібно самим якось звертатися до уряду, наприклад, там, чи до міської ради, щоб дати на якусь підтримку, якісь кошти. І я хотіла спитатися, як у вас відбувається вирішення таких проблем для молоді, яка готова щось робити, має знання, має можливості, але просто в плані якогось фінансування і розповсюдження, це ЗМІ можна залучати, але теж ми стараємося писати і там в Фейсбуці, наприклад, оприлюднювати, але хотілося б ще якось в більш наукових виданнях це, щоб публікувалося, і як ваші події вирішуються.
Okay. So in case of Zoom, my magazine, it was financed by the local government money because it is published by the Center for Culture in Lublin, which is a city, which is a place financed by the city. And at the very beginning, the money which were spent on Zoom, it was kind of a separate donation. So it was not in the whole budget of Center of Culture, but it was a separate donation, and the main reason for that is that it would be easier to cut it. So if the Zoom would be not very good magazine, it would be easier to cut it, to stop editing it, to stop printing. You just take the money back and that's all. But in case of other medias, well, of course, Facebook, internet is free. We've got also in Poland kind of bigger cities, but kind of commercial magazines. It's one of them is called Activist, and this magazine is financed mainly by the money from the advertisements, but they have the kind of a very big sponsor, one of the biggest companies in Poland, and the main funding goes from the company. But that solution would not be possible in Lublin, because in Lublin is too small for that. That's the one reason. And the other reason is when I was trying to find money for Zoom, from a magazine, from the sponsors, I was contacting almost everyone, car factories, banks, the mobile phone operators and so on and so on. And everyone was telling me, sorry, but people who are interested in culture are not a target group. That means that you are interested in culture, but also your grandmother is interested in culture. Boy is interested in culture, and woman is interested in culture. So it's really, really hard to find a company which is producing or selling something which all of us would be defined target group. So to sum up, in Poland, the most safe way for working in culture is to work by the government money, local government money, global government money, or European projects. The other solution is to work with private sponsors, but that goes mainly for big cities. And actually that's all. It's not possible to make culture just for selling tickets. It's not possible to have a magazine and sell it and earn enough money to cover their costs. That's why Zoom is for free. We don't sell it, we just give it to people. I love this English expression, information wants to be free. And the idea of Zoom was to promote culture. So that's why we decided that we need to do it only by the government money and not to earn money by selling the magazine. But actually, I would just ask you also about how do you work with the internet. So if you are organizing an event, do you make an event on Facebook, or do you have a sort of a global Facebook for culture? So how is it in Lviv, in your countries?
Very useful resources, website, official Lviv. I think you know about it. For example, I'm a secretary in my student council, and I deal with such press release about cultural events in my cities. So I just put it on official Lviv. I create a Facebook invitation for everybody who are interested in such event, or also resources for you, such a big idea. It's Ukrainian, but it's like for spreading information about culture, because I think that it's much more useful than like put a press release, such magazine or newspaper daily or weekly.
Who is paying for Afisha?
Who pays for it? You know, I just work like in cooperation with such issues. So I just told, for example, one issue that you may put our press release in your issue, and we put your sign in report or in such advertisement sheets. You understand? It's like equal cooperation. We make an exchange through use for them, and they give us space in newspaper for free.
So
Actually, this is the same solution which works in Poland and I think all the world. If you want the newspaper to print your text, then you need to give them something back. It can be a ticket for the premiere, but it usually is also a way of promoting the magazine.
Magda Nowakowska, I'm from Poland originally, but I lived in Georgia for last 17 years. And it's because my background is both culture manager and journalist, and I sort of saw this issue from different angles, because after being a culture manager, after going through journalism, I started working at Polish embassy in Tbilisi, and one of my tasks was to develop a new media strategy for actually promoting activities of the embassy, and this is something that is very significant for these times, as you said, that people do not read anymore, and this massive switch from the print media into the internet is something that will probably be judged in a couple of years' time as one of the main revolutions in information these days. And because the tool itself has changed, that dictates whether it is why I'm saying what is my background is because that it doesn't really matter what sort of information you are spreading, right? It doesn't matter if you're writing about culture, if you're writing about any kind of other activity. If you are activist and if you are, you know, if you want to tell the world about what you're doing, you probably will go and make a page. You will go and make a profile on Facebook. And my current job is UN projects that are very different, you know, from local governance to women's rights. And I use all the same tools in promoting these issues and promoting the activities. So, of course, you go into traditional media as well. But my personal reflection is that we need to rather see what would be the more effective tool to reach your audience in the existing media, say Facebook, right? To sort of to get it more sophisticated, and I think this is what is going to happen. That it is now, it's, you know, the Facebook now became a mess, right? And you read everything about everyone. So I think that Facebook and similar internet tools will be going towards some kind of a classification. Will be filtering more and more in order to get into our precise audience and to get more precise message. That's my personal thought.
I agree with you.
I agree with you completely, and I want to point out one thing, because you told me that if you want to be visible, active in the network, usually you set up a Facebook profile or you put a web page. That's obvious, but that's one problem. Then you have to promote your Facebook, and then you have to promote your web page. Because web page, if no one reads your web page or if no one checks your Facebook profile, then it's just, you know, you are wasting your time. And that's one of the ideas. I saw it in a small city in Poland, that instead of making a Facebook web page of each event, a group of people decided that they are going to make a web page for a whole city. So there's the city culture in Miłosz, I don't remember the name, culture in Miłosz, let's say, and you don't, you are making your own event on Facebook, but you are always putting it on that special profile. And that's working very fast. I could see that like 25% of the citizens of that city were subscribed to that web page. But the other problem is that it can work in a smaller cities. Because, for example, in Lublin, when we have like 30 or 40 events a day, that kind of Facebook profile would not work. We've got one more tool to promote culture in Lublin. It's a web page. It is held by the city government, and once again, it is for free. So when you are making an event, you just send them information that you are making a, let's say, theater performance, and they are obliged to put it on the web page. It's something close to official brief. And to be honest, I think that in case of promotion of culture, the best way is to join together, not to go separately, because then you lose the power. And when you are working together with some people, you know, someone is interested in galleries, so visual art, but because they will enter a web page like Viva Fischa, they will see, oh, today there's a theater performance. I haven't been in theater for many years, maybe I should go. And that will help you to combine audiences. That means, for example, in 5 years ago, people who were going to the classical music concert were not going to the theater. People who are going to the theater were not going for visual arts. Now it is slowly changing, mainly because of changes in culture. Lublin culture is more open, more, I don't know how to say this, more mixed. But it is also an effect of Zoom, it is also an effect of web page, which is just helping people to navigate through culture. Oh, yeah, sorry. Just to slowly finish up, I just want to give you one more idea how you can promote culture. Because actually, the most powerful tool of promotion of culture in Lublin was never a newspaper, it was never radio, it was never internet. It was a night of culture. It was an event which was supposed to be through whole night. I think that we have a night of museums in Lviv, right? So in Lublin we decided that, okay, we don't have very much museums, and those museums are very good. So that's why we should go for a night of culture. That means that every cultural organization is invited to present themselves. And what's important, each event is for free. That means that you don't pay for that. Each event is usually in the open space. That means that a lot of people can see that. And each of event is made without money. That means that the organization, like for example Center of Culture, is doing that by their own money because it's their business to promote in that way. So that's why I think that sometimes in case of promotion it's good to think outside of the box. You know, you can print 1,000 billboards and it won't have such an effect as a one night of culture in Lublin. So that's why I think that it's very good to have a good media coverage. It's very good to have a good Facebook page. It's very good to have a very good own web page, but it's good to promote in non-standard ways. Another example, the biggest theatre festival in Lublin, they did not promote at all. It was enough for them to put some performances on the street. And you saw many people who were just, you know, dancing with fire, there was loud music playing, people were going with the flags of this theatre festival, and the next day there was a huge queue in front of the huge queue for people who decided, okay, I want to see this festival. I want to go to buy a ticket for performance which is inside, not outside. Okay, and I think that's all from me. Maybe you've got some hints, maybe you've got something to share, maybe you've got some sort of positive examples. This is a time for you, and I would be very, very impressed and very grateful if you would learn something, if you would teach something to me. Any comments, ideas?
Then I'll just throw back some ideas. And this is again from a little bit different sphere than culture, but still we are talking about communication, right? So actually, when you spoke about thinking out of the box, it's crucial because especially in places which are not so saturated with communication, and for instance Georgia is not, you know, there's still a huge space for saying something out, a huge space for introducing new tools, and so my guess is so is Ukraine as well. And creativity is the answer. You know, when you want to grab attention, you just need, for instance, just an idea. We wanted to promote the idea of quotas for women in Georgian parliament. So what we did, we took a few projectors, few lights, strong lights, and we lit up main buildings in the capital to symbolize the attitude towards women's rights, towards participation of women in politics, and the whole entire media got it. Because everyone started, talking about why these buildings are lit, green, red, why are these messages on the front, because we were also projecting messages. The cost of it was practically none, and the media effect as a media coverage, which is what we're talking about, was amazing. So sometimes very simple ideas bring much more effect than a huge campaign and lots of money.
And especially the effect of surprise is good. If people don't know what's going to happen, what does it mean? What is it? Let's make that they just come on, I need to know what is it. They are starting to ask, and this is another way of promotion of communication. In Polish it's called marketing szeptany. That means that you just tell to your friend, oh, have you seen that? And your friend is saying that to another friend, oh, have you seen that? Have you seen that performance? Have you seen that billboard? Have you seen that something which is interesting? And that, once again, it cannot, it's not enough. So that kind of marketing is never enough, but it's a very good kind of support for other marketing tools, other advertisement tools. And other comments, questions?
Two questions. You mentioned that you lost inspiration and you got tired. Maybe it's also, maybe you can share some ideas.
maybe you can share with us your ideas what to do in the future with Zoom. Maybe change it, how to change it, because you probably have some ideas. Or maybe close Zoom and start something new, or move to Russia. I don't know.
Definitely not move to Russia.
I was born in Lublin, but I also chose that city and I want to stay here. But yeah, that's true. I told you honestly that I'm kind of burned out, and the main reason is that monthly magazine has a kind of a process. So each month you are doing exactly the same. At the very beginning of the month you are meeting your team of journalists. You are discussing for 2 hours what should be in Zoom, what should we write about it. Then you've got like a couple of days free time. Then you need to read all the text, then you need to work with the graphical designer, then you need to work with the publishing house and so on. And after 12 years it's kind of like, you know, going around. So that's true. I am kind of burnt out. I have no idea what to do that, except that I think that Zoom needs a new head editor. I think that I cannot do that anymore. And I can see that some of my journalists are also a bit tired. And what's kind of symbolical, all of us are working not only in Zoom. For the past 4 years I was also working as a cultural animator, and I'm much more into cultural animation right now than into the journalism. And that is a kind of a warning for all of you who is going to be a journalist in future. After a couple of years of time you will have more or less the same problem. You will be going to a theater performance and you will be thinking, oh come on, again, I don't want to do that. And it's up to you to think a bit earlier how to solve that problem, because journalist who is burnt out is not a journalist, or he is not a good journalist. And in case of future Zoom, I know one thing for sure: we don't have internet website right now. The main reason, it was a political decision made many years ago. The city didn't want to sponsor our website because they didn't want us to have too big coverage. Because actually I've got one rule in Zoom. When I discuss with a journalist that I want this article, I never put a censorship on it. When I work with people, I do have trust for them, and some of them are very critical towards, for example, City Hall. And that is causing sometimes problems and so on and so on. And for many years that was the main reason why we could not set a web page, because the city just didn't want for us to have too big audience. Right now the times have changed, and I'm even close to closing down the magazine as a physical newspaper, because printing of a magazine is like 70% of our costs, of our budget. And if you could spend that text on educating journalists, on publishing in the network, then you could write much better, much more, and so on. But on the other hand, you need to remember that some people are excluded from the internet. And many of our readers are older people who could not change the medium, so they would not go to the internet. So I don't have a straight answer for your question. I see more problems than answers.
After 12 years, and how it changed, because firstly you said that it was hard to find journalists, and because as far as I know it's really hard to find good journalists who can write, especially about culture, and not in the capital or the biggest cities.
Well, actually through 12 years of Zoom, I think that I've been working with more than 70 people. Some of them were good journalists and we were working for a longer time. Some of them were not so good, and after a month or two we decided that I'm sorry, we cannot work together. But I've got a small team of, I would say core team of journalists. It's 5 people who are responsible for getting information and that kind of stuff. But I've got like 20 people who are working for me just in the moment when I need them, so they are sort of experts. So for example, if there's a good exhibition in art gallery, I'm contacting a girl who is a very good art critic, but she's not working constant for me. She's working just from time to time. And the other problem, the other solution which I was using is that I was just educating my journalists. So when I I could see that someone's got a potential, I offered him, for example, like a trip to also to a very good theater to have some sort of a contrast. Because when you are sitting in Lublin, when you are living in Lublin, when you are watching everything what is happening in Lublin, you lose the kind of a global context. You don't know if the art in Lublin is good because it's in Lublin or its quality is on the European and Polish level. So that's why I was, well, how to say this? It's good to invest in journalists. You need to help journalists to be good.
But finally, you can say that the text in Zoom, they are as good quality as the text in the, I don't know, biggest Polish media that.
Well, I can say that sometimes they are even better. Because in the newspapers, the reviews are not called in Poland critical review. That means that you go very deeply inside the material of performance of art and so on. And in newspaper you've got very short reviews. So in newspaper one review is like 2,000 to 3,000 characters, and in my magazine it's up to 8 to 10,000. So you've got much more space, and then you write much deeper. But of course there's a lot of text which I'm not very proud of, and there are some texts, for example, with which I don't agree. So I work with a journalist who go to the performance and they are writing that performance was very good, and I think no, it was not a good performance. But I can accept their way of argumentation. So when I'm reading the article, I can understand, okay, this guy was thinking about it. He's got just different opinion than I have. And Zoom is not my private field it's not my private tool. I need to accept different points of view. And actually that goes for all the media. You need different points of view because then you've got a bigger audience, more readers, more viewers and so on and so on. Okay, I think we could end. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your help, for your discussion. It was a really pleasure to meet with you, and I must tell you all that it's a huge pleasure for me to be with you. So thank you very much for all.